Hello and welcome to Films and That, the show where we talk about films that usually don't get talked about. My name's Rob Turnbull.
And my name's Sam Hall.
And today we are talking about David Cronenberg's Videodrome. One of Cronenberg's greatest body horror films, Videodrome follows the life of a sleazy TV executive as he becomes obsessed by a pornographic TV channel. This review contains spoilers. So James Woods plays the lead of Max Renn in this, and I really like his character as kind of like a really sleazy anti-hero. You're not really supposed to like his attitude or what he does.
You're not supposed to like him, but I do think that his character is supposed to be more accessible. He's like real people, you know. He has wants.
He's not fighting anything, is he? So you can't say he's a revolutionary.
No, he just wants to be stimulated, and he wants porn. That's what this is all. That's his motivation. Yeah. He wants porn.
I want something that's going to show people what's really going on under the sheets. This stuff is too naive. It's too sweet, like you.
You know, this is perfectly illustrated in a scene where he's doing a television interview opposite a character called Nikki, played by Debbie Harry. And during the interview, you know, in a completely unprofessional way, he starts flirting with her and coming on to her.
I live in a highly excited state of overstimulation.
Listen, I'd really like to take you out to dinner tonight.
I really like how he just doesn't take that seriously at all, because the interviewer's trying to make a point about how his TV station's evil and he shouldn't be doing it, and he's not interested in that. He's on live TV. He's not interested in talking to him and defending himself. He just wants to cop off with Debbie Harry.
I am actually.
Very interested in my dress, yeah.
Yes, I am very interested.
Nikki, is Max Renn a menace to society?
He's certainly a menace to me.
And she's into him, though.
Yeah, bizarrely.
Yeah, but I mean, even though she seems to have more of a point to make in that scene, but in this television interview, but then it turns out that almost immediately she finds out that they're like-minded souls. They're both after stimulation.
So Max discovers this TV show called Videodrome, which he thinks is a constructed pornographic S&M show, doesn't he, initially? But it turns out that that's actually real, and that's happening, and it's actually a snuff TV show.
Yeah. You get a sense that they're already living in a world where they're so desensitized to violence and to pornography that it's not such a big thing anymore, which is more the world we live in now, I guess.
Initially, they are titillated by Videodrome, but they just want more and more. And Debbie Harry eventually goes on to want to be on the show.
They almost describe it as a game show, even though they don't demonstrate anything game show orientated about it, but it's maybe meant to appeal to people who are sadomasochistic, which Debbie Harry's character certainly is, and Max, you know, is seems to be showing an interest in that world, perhaps because he's so desensitized to all the stimulations that he throws at himself the rest of his life. So he becomes more interested in that world through Videodrome. And then when he investigates Videodrome further, he finds out that there's something a lot more sinister to the whole plot.
This is where it gets a bit more, I suppose, complicated. Because it turns out Videodrome is a signal that is triggering him to have a tumour.
The tone of the hallucinations is determined by the tone of the tape's imagery. But the Videodrome signal, the one that does the damage, it can be delivered under a test, pattern, anything.
Damage.
The signal induces a brain tumor. It's the tumor that creates the hallucinations.
Do you let me watch it?
We don't really know what the plot is, where the lines are going, and I feel we tend to follow what he is thinking, because he's very confused as a character, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's just flopping between what people are telling him to do. We start off, this one group of people convince him to kill his workmates.
Don't.
Someone else convinces him to kill the first group of people, and he goes on a killing spree essentially and just tries to evolve. He keeps using this mantra of "Get the Videodrome, long live the new flesh!" The new flesh, I guess, being the one that's being created for him. The kind of blurring of the lines between technology and our own bodies. And by the end of the film, you know, he's not even himself anymore. He's someone else because he's got so much dogma in his head, you know, that he's become a tool. I don't really know where the boundaries lie into what actually happens. Because he says the tumour causes these visions, but then these visions seem to actually happen to him.
That's the thing, it's at what point do you make the distinction between what's real and what's not? And, you know, is he actually does he just have a gun in his pocket? Or is he really...
Yeah.
Is this tumour that's been implanted in his mind, has that really created him to have sort of higher functions to the point where he can create a gun in his body as a sort of factory, a sort of weapons factory, you know?
And that's where the whole simulacra thing comes in for me, blurring the lines between what is real and what is just merely representation. Because the character of Oblivion, he's been dead for a long time, but everyone thinks he's alive because he's created all these tapes of him, and he only ever appears on TV as a tape.
It's implied at one point that Brian Oblivion, who is he's apparently a real world figure in this world who got exposed to Videodrome and says that this killed him through the tumour that he got. But in that process, at the same time, he also describes himself as electronically uploading himself, so that he still exists as a person beyond the physical.
At the end, he was convinced that public life on television was more real than private life in the flesh. He wasn't afraid to let his body die.
Tell me about my Videodrome problem.
My father knows much more about it than I do. Listen to him.
To the point where any question you could ask him, he'd have an answer to. You just need to find the right videotape, you know?
I really like that concept. I think that's very, like you said, prophetic. I think a lot of people live their life like that now, just uploading pictures of themselves to Facebook and just living life as an avatar, essentially.
There is a line that Oblivion says. He said, obviously that's not my real name, but soon we will all have these fake names.
Names designed to cause the cathode ray tube to resonate.
We're all immortal now because just like this, you know, we can appear on YouTube and have a record of ourselves somewhere, and maybe that started with photographs. In a way, we do exist beyond our own physical selves already, if you can interpret it in that way.
We're living in a hyper-real state, essentially, and that is what Videodrome is about.
Yeah.
Do you think there was a fear of that at the time? I mean, watching it reminds me a lot of the video nasties stuff that happened in the 80s. I mean, it was a similar time, wasn't it? To the fear of what this is going to do to people, isn't it? This kind of smut that's going to fill our screens. It's going to change people's perception of the world and turn them into crazy people, essentially, which is what it does in this film. But I think Cronenberg does it in a way that exploits that fear.
Sometimes Cronenberg has been misinterpreted as someone who's as dogmatic and conservative about all this. And I think that's just simplifying him, really. You can't be conservative and then portray sex and violence in the way he does at the same time, you know. Well, he's not warning you about it, you know, but he is exploiting those things to stimulate you and to sensualize and to make you think about these things, you know.
It's interesting to look at that from our perspective now, though. We're so used to, you know, pornography everywhere, and this kind of thing seems quite quaint to me. Do you get that impression that
there's almost an innocence about it?
Yeah, like oh, this videotape is going to cause you harm.
What do you want from me?
I want you to open up, Max.
Oh my God!
I think that's a good thing to tap into, though. The fear of it, like Frankenstein, the fear of pushing too far with science. You've got cybernetics sort of going in science fiction later on, like the Cybermen in Doctor Who was kind of a fear at we'd eventually replace our bodies, you know, with robotic ones. And again, you know, is that partly what this film is? Is it a fear of leaving our physical bodies behind? These hyper-real existences that we create for ourselves are going to become so important that we won't exist anymore.
Whatever appears on the television screen emerges as raw experience for those who watch it. Therefore, television is reality, and reality is less than television.
The mind is what's affecting it. The mind is what's linked to Videodrome, and this has negative effects on the body by creating the tumor. You know, so that there's a sort of there's that disparity between the ascendancy of the mind and the body being left behind and sort of being perverted to the point where it almost can't continue.
Because they do separate out the mind and the body in this. There's a bit when he's got that thing on his head and they're trying to convince him that all he's seeing is dreams and visions. So they do separate it out from, is this, visions, or is this actually happening to his body? But you can't deny that it's not happening, because how's he turn that man's hand into a grenade?
Yeah.
See you in Pittsburgh.
But there is that point where but this must be happening, or why are we watching it? It can't all just be. I think
it's lazy to say that it's in his head and he's just got a real gun and he's just a nut that's going to kill people.
Otherwise, there would be no point in the film. It's not an interesting point to make that it's just a man going mad, So it's just it makes you doubt it the whole way through, which is perhaps this one of the reasons why Cronenberg is such an intelligent director. He's not going to spoon feed things to you. You've got to work it out yourself, and he's going to make you doubt what you're seeing.
The ending's a bit ambiguous. He starts talking to Debbie Harry, who at this point has died, or we don't know what's happened to her. She's just gone somewhere. But she starts telling him to kill himself, to be part of this new world. Do you think that's a line that's been fed to him by Oblivion's daughter, or do you think that is him transcending his body and becoming a new individual at that point?
I think the latter is more in tune to the point of the whole film. It's possible that she's trying to cover up loose ends. You could interpret it like that. But then I think, again, that misses the point of the film. I think really probably what she's trying to tell him is to become like her father, like Professor Oblivion, and become an uploaded entity instead of...
I prefer that ending. I think that works better for me.
And we see that Nikki, Deborah Harris' character, that's kind of already happened to her.
She's on the TV, isn't she? Yeah.
You have to go all the way now. A total transformation.
Long live the new flesh.
So what's your final thoughts on this one then?
I really like Videodrome as a film. It's my favourite Cronenberg film. It's probably not, I wouldn't have said it's his best film. I think Dead Ringers is his best film. But I really like...
Objectively, you mean, yeah.
What?
As in, like...
I don't think it's his best film.
No, you said it's your favourite. That's what I mean. Yeah. Yeah. You said it's your favourite film. You said you don't think it's his best film.
I don't think it's...
Some people could say that, well, that should be one and the same thing, shouldn't it?
No. I understand that Dead Ringers is a better film because it works from the beginning to end much better than this does. But I prefer this just because of the subject matter and how much it goes into the body horror aspect of it. Dead Ringers doesn't do that so much, so I don't prefer that to this. I mean, it does it a bit with the gynecological
gynecological. Anyway, I wouldn't go so far as to say it's my favourite Cronenberg film. I do understand, why it's considered so highly by a lot of people. There's a lot you can say about it. I think it certainly appeals to people's intellect a lot, But at the same time, maybe it's just a bit too depressing for me. I don't know. I think sometimes when the science fiction reflects real life that much, it just gets to me a bit. I think. And I think I'd rather be watching something a bit more of escape from reality, I suppose.
Or like Dead Ringers.
I know I'm not a twin, so I don't have to worry about that.
I think Videodrome loses its way towards the kind of third act. I think it gets a bit convoluted and a bit kind of confusing, and I would have liked something more concise and clear cut, but maybe that's the point of it. Maybe you flop around between the characters, you don't know what's going on, and maybe you're supposed to be confused and come up with your own interpretation of it.
Yeah, I can believe that. Yeah, that's fair enough.
Okay, that's it for this week on Films and That. Thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing, we'll see you next time.
I won't do that thing again.
We didn't mention Deborah Harry's boobs.
You can still put them